Alrighty, folks, the Bears take on the Commanders, 8:15 Eastern kickoff Thursday night. Washington's the 6-point favorite, totals 44. And we did see a half a point fade of Washington since this line opened up. They opened 6.5 down to 6 flat. Total-wise, the Commanders did see 2 out of their last 3 ball games get over the number. Overs against the likes of the Eagles and Broncos. And speaking of overs, the Bears saw all 4 of their ball games this season get over the line themselves. Now, weather-wise, should be a pretty nice evening in Landover. It looks like about 70 degrees with very little wind by kickoff. Now, injury-wise, Chris Rodriguez, he's questionable for Washington. Johnson, Jackson, and Claypool out for Chicago. Brisker is questionable as well. Looks like he's probably going to be a game-time decision. When it comes to the point spread, well, both teams do have obvious areas of concern that make this one tough to handicap. I'll start with Washington real quick. These guys are committing more penalties on defense than any other team in the NFL. They're also allowing more first-quarter points than any other team besides one, really helping their opponents extend drives. Meanwhile, Chicago on the other side, well, where do I even start? They're still winless on the season. They've yet to cover a point spread. So if you want to see if I think they're going to get back on track here today, if you want to see if I like Chicago catching the 6, or if I like Washington laying a touchdown at home, this game is being featured as my $1.99 daily best play here for Thursday on patreon.com/BrockPage. But as far as making a free pick is concerned, give me the over 44. And before we go ahead and move on, welcome to our NFL Week 5 video for the 2023 season. My name is Brock Page, and I've been dishing out free sports picks right here on YouTube since 2016. And if you want to see which one of these free plays on this video that I actually like the best, you may want to think about signing up for my NFL package. It gives you 3 premium NFL selections every single week for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you're also going to get access to all of my cheaper memberships for the next 30 days, absolutely free. Those picks are going to be included with your purchase. Once again, that site is patreon.com/BrockPage. And with that, let's go ahead and dive into some Sunday action. It's the London Jaguars taking on the Buffalo Bills, 9:30 a.m. Eastern kickoff across the pond in London. Buffalo's -5, totals 48. Now, the Bills won 3 straight, and they covered the point spread in all 3 of those victories. When it comes to offensive production, these guys actually put up 123 total points in those 3 wins I just mentioned. And a lot of that is thanks to quarterback Josh Allen. He's completing a league-best 75% of his passes. And, of course, his favorite target's been Stephon Diggs, who's averaging 100 yards a game receiving. Now they're facing a Jags defense on the other side of things who allows over 5.6 yards per play. When it comes to second-half defense, Jacksonville is allowing more third-quarter points than any other team in the league. Now, injury-wise, Smoot is out. Washington's doubtful. Meanwhile, Agnew, Fatukasi, Allen, and Jones are also banged up for the Jags. Keep an eye on them. Now, for Buffalo on the other side, White and Miller are out for them. Benford, Harris, Knox, Poyer, and Rousseau, they're all listed as questionable. Now, weather-wise, should be a nice day in London on Sunday. Slight breeze and partly cloudy by game time. Guys, I know it's morning for us. It's not morning for the folks in London. I know I shouldn't have to say that, but I think I do have to say that. It's morning time for us in the States, not morning for the folks across the pond. Now, total-wise, Buffalo saw unders against the likes of Washington and the Jets. Meanwhile, the Jags saw 2 out of their last 3 stay under the line. Give me the Bills, -5, under 48. Next game, Texans, Falcons, 1 o'clock East. Atlanta's -2 at home, totals 41. Now, the Falcons are on a 2-game skid, and they actually scored just 13 total points in those losses. Significant issues on offense. And obviously, the Falcons have major problems at that quarterback position. They're throwing for fewer yards a game than any other team in the league. And yes, that includes the Bears. Now they're facing a tough Houston team who's got a top 10 passing defense themselves. And the Texans also tend to shut it down late in games on the defensive side. They're in the top 3 in the NFL in fewest fourth quarter points allowed. Jonathan Greenard has 3 sacks from the edge along with 16 tackles. And even if the Houston defense struggles, quarterback C.J. Stroud, he's going to keep you in it. He's looked really good. Does not look like a rookie. He's 3rd in the league in yards per completion. He's got no qualms about throwing it down the field. Now, injury-wise, Jones, Tunzel, Collins, Mason, and Pierce are questionable for Houston. Johnson, Howard, and Green are out. Meanwhile, for Atlanta on the other side, Josh Ali, he's been put on the IR. Now, the Falcons' last 2 ball games fell under the total. 3-1 to the under for the entire season. Meanwhile, Houston saw unders against the likes of Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Give me the Texans +2, under 41. Next ball game, Panthers, Lions, 1 o'clock East. Detroit's laying 10 points here, double-digit favorite, totals 44.5. Now, we did see significant movement on both the side and the total in this one. Lions open 9, up to 10 flat. Total open 43.5, up to 44 and a hook. So we saw a 1-point move on both the side and the total. And I'll tell you what, I've got no real reason to fade the Lions here. They won their last 2 straight. They also went 3-1 against the spread in the month of September. And even though the Lions have been catapulted by some solid quarterback play from Jared Goff, it's actually been their defense that's really kept them competitive in games. The Lions are in the top 3 in the NFC right now in fewest yards allowed per game. As a matter of fact, Detroit currently has the #1 rush defense in the entire league right now. Jacobs and Branch have 50 tackles between the both of them. Aiden Hutchinson has 3.5 sacks from the edge. Now, Detroit's facing a Carolina team who's having all kinds of problems moving the football. These guys average fewer yards per play than any other team besides one. And when it comes to offensive discipline, the Panthers have none of it. This is the most heavily penalized offensive unit in the game. Absolute drive killers. Now, no real shock. Carolina has one of the worst rush defenses in the NFC as well. And when it comes to the injury list, Sanders, Charles, Ricky, Williams, Louvieux, Woods, and Jackson are questionable. Sullivan and Corbett are out. Meanwhile, for Detroit, Vaitai, Kabinda, St. Brown, Reynolds, Decker, Branch, Joseph, and Mosley are all questionable. Okwara and Gardner Johnson on the IR. Total-wise, the Lions did see unders against the likes of Atlanta and Kansas City. Meanwhile, Carolina's 3-1 to the under for the entire season. Give me the Lions -10, under 44.5. Next ballgame, Titans, Colts, 1 o'clock East. Tennessee's -2, totals 43. Now, we did see this line flip. It was actually Indy who opened up as the 1-point favorite. They're now catching a couple of points. Total open 41.5, up 1.5 points to 43 flat. And I'll tell you what, the Colts continue to be competitive in each and every game. They actually covered the point spread in 2 out of their last 3. When it comes to defensive play, the Colts do get a good pass rush. They're very disciplined as well. Not only does Indy rank in the top 5 in sacks per game, they're also committing fewer penalties on D than any other team besides one. Zaire Franklin, he's the team leader in tackles with 57 of them. They're facing a Tennessee team on the other side of things who's got one of the worst passing offenses in the game. You know, it's been that way for the past handful of seasons now. I don't know why they put up with it. They must really trust Tannehill to do enough. I don't get it. But the Titans are throwing for just $1.69 per contest. They also have issues protecting Ryan Tannehill. He's been sacked 16 times, and he's thrown only a pair of touchdowns this year. Now, injury-wise, Gifford, Molden, Burks, and Tart are questionable. Phillips is out. Meanwhile, for Indy on the other side, Woods, Flowers, and Taylor are out for them. Kelly, Raymond, Buckner, Lewis, Leonard, Nelson, and Mo Alley Cox are questionable. Now, the Titans' last 2 straight fell under the total. 3-1 to the under for the entire month of September. Give me Indy +2, under 43. Next game, Giants at the Dolphins, 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff. Miami's the 11-point favorite at home, totals 49. Now, for some reason, we saw movement toward New York, and the under in this one almost makes you think, was that a false line move? I don't know. Miami opened 11.5 down to 11. Total open 50 down to 49. But I'll tell you what, regardless of how bad this Dolphins defense has been, they're going to be able to outscore the Giants, unless Tua gets banged up early, unto which they still should be able to move the ball. They're leading the NFL in scoring and yards per game. Tua's thrown for over 1,300 yards already. Tyreek Hill's getting $118 a game. They're facing a Giants secondary who certainly allows the deep ball. They're 28th in yards per completion allowed. Only 32 teams in the entire league, by the way. So they rank 28th in yards per completion allowed. But most concerning has been their offensive production. These guys are averaging fewer yards per completion than any other team in the league. Danny Dimes has been sacked 22 times already, and he's thrown only 2 touchdowns. Now, injury-wise, Schmitz, Lemieux, Bellinger, Robinson, Barkley, Neal, McKeithen, Ojulari, Brightwell, and Thomas, they're all questionable for the Giants. Meanwhile, for Miami, Armstead, Wilson, Needham, and Jones, they're out. Phillips, Elliott, Barrios, Cotton, and Williams are questionable. Weather-wise, keep an eye on the weather. Possible showers, 86 degrees by game time. Probably should mess up the Giants offensively if it starts pouring rain, because Miami can run it or pass it. The rain doesn't matter to them. I think the rain's really going to hurt the Giants more than it would hurt Miami. Now, total-wise, I don't think the Giants can score enough to help put this one over. Like I said, Dolphins D stinks, but the Giants are that bad with the ball in their hands. They did see their last 2 straight stay under the number. 3-1 to the under for the entire year. Give me Miami -11, under 49. Next matchup, Saints, Patriots, 1 o'clock East. New Orleans is the 1-point favorite, totals 40. Now, we did see this line flip earlier in the week. Could probably end up as a pick'em. The Saints were catching one earlier in the week, now laying one. Total open 38.5 up to 40. Now, the Saints are on a 2-game skid, and they've yet to cover a point spread. We're also looking at one of the worst offensive units in the NFL. These guys average just 15 points a game, and they're in the bottom 3 in the NFC in fourth quarter scoring. They're facing a tough Patriot defense who defends both the run and the pass pretty well. New England's currently in the top 5 in the AFC in scrimmage yards allowed per play. Duggar and Peppers have nearly 60 tackles between the both of them. When it comes to penalties, this is a very disciplined defense. Give me 1 sec, guys. Sorry about that. Had something on the stove, and yeah, totally forgot about it. But I'm not restarting the video. Not doing it. Anyway, Duggar and Peppers, nearly 60 tackles. And penalty-wise, this is a very disciplined defense. These guys are in the top 3 in fewest defensive penalties per game. Now, injury-wise, Strange, Gonzalez, Barmore, Wade, Stevenson, Jones, Montgomery, and Godshaw, they're all listed as questionable. Matthew Judon is out for a couple of months. Out of breath. Whew. Meanwhile, for the Saints, Johnson, Pete, Ruiz, Carr, McCoy, Johnson, Adebo, and Brise, they are questionable for them. Now, weather-wise, breezy and mild at game time in Foxborough. When it comes to the total, the Pats are their last 3 straight all stay under the number. New Orleans on the other side, saw all of their games this year stay under the line. They actually saw their last 10 straight stay under the total dating back to last season. Lots of unders for these guys. Give me the Patriots +1 under 40. All right, next matchup, Ravens, Steelers, 1 o'clock East. Baltimore's -4 on the road. Total is 38. And, I really do think this Pittsburgh organization as a whole, I think they're in trouble. They got no consistency, no confidence at the quarterback position, and they really can't even rely on that defense to keep them in games anymore. The Steelers are in the bottom 3 in total yards allowed per game. As a matter of fact, this Pittsburgh secondary is allowing more yards per completion than any other team besides one. Now, they're facing Lamar Jackson, who completes over 74% of his throws, second most in the NFL behind Josh Allen. And, of course, the biggest threat to opposing defenses is this Baltimore rushing attack. These guys are in the top 3 in the AFC in rushing yards per game. Now, the real strength of this Baltimore franchise as a whole this year, it's been that very tough defense. Several different categories they lead the league in right now. They're currently first in yards allowed per play, first in yards allowed per completion. They're also giving up fewer first quarter points than any other defense in the league. Now, injury-wise, Leal, Daniels, Harvin, Freiermuth, Holcomb, Pickett, and Okorafor are questionable for Pittsburgh. Dan Moore Jr. is out. Meanwhile, for the Ravens, Ojabo and Mitchell are out for them. Humphrey, Armour Davis, Owe, Worley, Hill, Beckham, and Moses are questionable. When it comes to the weather report, mostly sunny and breezy by game time. Looks like about 55 degrees in the Steel City. Now, total-wise, I actually think the Ravens can help put this one over themselves in this one. 25 points a game they're averaging. Probably going to score a little bit more, considering this Pittsburgh defense has been so shaky. The Steelers on the other side, they've allowed 30 points or more in 2 out of their last 4. Give me Baltimore -4 over 38. Next ballgame, Bengals, Cardinals, 4:05 East. Cincinnati's the 3.5-point favorite. Total's 44 and a hook. And for a team laying a field goal on the road here, actually a little bit more than that, just keep in mind, since he hasn't covered a point spread yet. And, much of that is due to offensive production or lack thereof. These guys are dead last in the league in yards per game. They're currently averaging just a dozen points per contest. And if you think the defense can keep them in it, well, just keep in mind the Bengals have arguably the worst rush defense in the league. Their opponents are running for nearly $160 a game. They're facing an Arizona team who's got a little issue moving the football on the ground. These guys are averaging over 5.3 yards per rush. They're second in the league in that particular category. And even though Dobbs isn't putting up record-breaking numbers, he is completing 71% of his throws, and he's yet to throw a pick. So pretty good protection he's getting back there. Now, injury-wise, Ledbetter, Woods, Ingram, Barnes, and Froholt are questionable. Daly is out. Meanwhile, for Cincy on the other side, Taylor Britt, Davis Gaither, Higgins, Brown, and Smith are questionable for them. When it comes to the total, the Cards saw their last 3 straight get over the number. Meanwhile, Cincy saw their Week 2 matchup against Baltimore get over the total themselves. Give me Arizona +3.5 over 44 and a hook. All right, next ball game, Eagles at the Rams. That'll be a 4:05 Eastern kickoff. Philadelphia is the 5-point favorite on the road here. Total's 50.5. Now, we did see a 1-point move toward the Eagles and the over in this one. Having said that, though, it's actually the Birds who failed to cover in 2 out of their last 3 ball games, depending on where you shopped at. And when it comes to defensive play, this Philadelphia secondary really hasn't defended the pass well enough. They got to get better. They're allowing 28 completions a game. That's nearly a league high. And obviously, what matters more than that is pass yards allowed. These guys are in the bottom 5 in the NFC right now in total pass yards given up per game. So got to do a little bit better job in that secondary. I mean, they got a great pass rush, but, I don't know. But anyway, The Birds are allowing more fourth quarter points than most teams in the league. That back door is always open. And as you know, the Rams are quite good at backdooring their opponents. They're currently 4-0 against the spread this year, depending on where you shopped at. And they're also leading the NFC right now in passing yards. Matt Stafford's thrown for over 1,200 yards on the year. The combination of Nakua and Atwell, they're averaging nearly 200 yards a game between the both of them receiving-wise. So both of those guys combined, basically getting about 200 yards a game. And if you think it's just all offense in LA, well, just keep in mind, this has been a very tough secondary to throw against as well. The Rams are allowing under 185 yards a game through the air. And they're actually limiting opposing quarterbacks to just 56% passing. Now, injury-wise, Jackson, Williams, Johnson, Noteboom, Skoranek, and Roseboom are questionable. Kupp and Mathis are still out. Meanwhile, for Philadelphia, Jurgens, Brown, Topolotu, Covey, and Cox are questionable. Nakobe Dean still out. Philly, 3-1 to the over for the season. Rams, 2 out of their last 3 got over the line. Give me the Rams +5 over 50.5. All right, next game, Jets at the Broncos, 4:25 Eastern start time. Denver's the 2-point favorite at home. Total's 43.5. And as bad as the Broncos have been, well, it really ain't for a lack of point production. Denver's put up nearly 90 points in their last 3 outings. And speaking of offensive production, the Broncos are gaining over 6.2 yards per play from scrimmage. They're actually in the top 5 in the NFL in that particular category. They're facing a Jets team on the other side who does have issues defending the run. These guys allow nearly $150 a game on the ground. When it comes to offensive production, there's actually only one other team in the league right now that throws for fewer pass yards than these guys. Now, Zach Wilson, big problem. He's completing just 58% of his throws, and he's barely got 700 yards passing under his belt. Injury-wise, Adams, Schweitzer, Becton, Iguavin, and Reed are questionable. Eccles, Warren, and Bernard Converse are out. Meanwhile, for Denver on the other side of things, Purcell, Cushenberry, Judy, Williams, Simmons, Clark, and Joel, they're all listed as questionable. Locke and Browning are out. Now, total-wise, we are looking at a couple of really bad defenses in this one. Well, I wouldn't say the Jets have a really bad defense, but we're looking at 2 teams that have allowed their fair share of points. I'll put it that way. The Broncos, to start, they saw their last 3 straight get over the total. The Jets saw 2 out of their last 3 get over the line. Give me Denver -2 over 43.5. Next ball game, Chiefs, Vikings, 4:25 East. Kansas City's the 4-point favorite on the road. Total's 53. And for some reason, we saw a 1-point move toward the Vikings and the over in this one. Not really surprised on the movement on the total, but the 1-point move toward the Vikings. Maybe there's something people know that I don't. Now, even though the Vikes can move the football, there are several areas of concern offensively that I have for them. For one, there's zero commitment to run the football. These guys average a league low 18 rushing attempts per game. And number 2, they put it on the turf too much. They fumble too much. They don't protect the ball. They're facing a Kansas City defense who won their last 3 straight, and they've held their opponents to just 15 points a game this year. And I'll tell you what, that's certainly more than enough for Patrick Mahomes in this offense. These guys can outscore anybody. So to have to outscore 15 points a game, that's a good formula. KC, they're gaining nearly 400 total yards per game. Top 3 in the league in that category. And of course, this big O-line, they've been doing all kinds of damage to opposing defenses. Running back Isaiah Pacheco's averaging just about 5 yards a carry. Patty Mahomes runs for 6.7 yards per scamper. When it comes to protecting Mahomes, Well, he's been sacked only twice. Injury-wise, Christensen, Watson, Bolton, and Dickerson are questionable. Meanwhile, for Minnesota, Bradbury, Seen, Asamoah, Mullins, Metellus, and Davenport, they're questionable for them. And as much as everyone's going to pound the over in this one, you got to keep in mind that the Vikings' last 2 straight did fall under the total. 3 under the under for the entire season. Meanwhile, KC saw unders against the likes of the Jaguars and Lions. Give me the Chiefs -4, under 53. Next contest, Sunday Night Football. Cowboys at the Niners, 8:20 p.m. East. San Francisco's -3, totals 45. And we did see a 1-point move toward Dallas and the under in this one. And, I'm really not sure why. The undefeated Niners have scored 30 points or more in all of their victories this season. Brock Purdy's completing 72% of his throws. He's yet to throw a pick. The Niners are good for about 400 total yards a game, and a lot of that is thanks to Christian McCaffrey, who's gaining $1.15 a game on the ground. Now they're facing a Dallas defense who allows over 4.6 yards per rush. They're actually in the bottom 5 in the league in that category. Now, with the Niners, if you think it's just all offense with them, well, these guys have been mighty tough to move the chains against. San Francisco's in the top 3 in fewest scrimmage yards allowed per play. When it comes to Dak and this Cowboys offense on the other side of things, they don't really air it out too much. They don't throw it, too deep. Not a lot of shots downfield. They're in the bottom 10 in the league in yards per completion. And, if you look at the record, the Cowboys have beaten up on teams like the Giants, Jets, and Patriots. So, really haven't beaten anybody. Injury-wise, Hendershot, Dowdle, Parsons, Clark, Hooker, Smith, Martin, questionable. Niners, Feliciano, Samuel, Mitchell, Jennings, Greenlaw, Ward, questionable. Total-wise, 2 out of both teams' last 3 ball games respectively this year got over the total. Give me the Niners -3 over 45. And with that, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for the video. Monday Night Football, Packers at the Raiders, 8:15 Eastern start time. Green Bay's the 1-point favorite on the road, totals 45. And I'll tell you what, both teams are equally as bad. Both have bad offenses. Both have bad defenses. Total-wise, more conflicting info there. Packers went 3-1 to the over in their last 4. Raiders saw 3 out of their last 4 stay under. No free pick for that game. And with that, folks, we are going to jump into our quick pick recap. Give me the over 44 in the Bears-Commanders game. Buffalo Bills -5, under 48. Houston +2, under 41. And if you want to see which one of these free plays on this video that I actually like the best, you're going to have to sign up for my NFL package on my premium page. The link is in my bio. Detroit -10, under 44.5. Colts +2, under 43. Dolphins -11, under 49. Patriots +1, under 40. Baltimore -4, over 38. Cardinals +3.5, over 44.5. LA Rams +5, over 50.5. Broncos -2, over 43.5. Kansas City Chiefs -4, under 53. San Francisco -3, over 45. And I have no free pick for you in the Packers-Raiders game.